Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hope you're doing well. Just wanted to talk to you about, maybe it can motivate you as well, why I like reading. It is really peaceful for me, and I really hope to lead by example and pushing myself to study every day, because college is overly priced. And if you haven't heard the news, it has now come out that they're treating the sweet and sour sniffles, Koofy COVID, as the flu. And I'm going to share probably that maybe on the community tab, or I'll put it on my blog, depending. But people were saying this in the beginning when the outbreak first happened. I was one of them. I was heavily attacked. I wasn't allowed to go back to my classes because I refused the jab, because I felt that no college has a right to force medication on us, especially when they won't be held liable for damages and pay for our health insurance or whatever, right? So I wasn't able to go back, and I decided to have another baby because I saw after the first semester they still had the mandate there, and I said, okay, obviously this is going to be a long-form protest, and I have to choose between governing my body or letting a school and government decide what goes into it, and I'm not going to let Big Pharma own me. So I wasn't able to go to the college, right? And I knew all my life, really, that I loved reading, right? But I really broke free from the idea that the colleges have a monopoly on knowledge. That when they kick me out, basically, you can't come here and be in math class. Now you look how everything is back to normal. It's really quite shocking how ostracized we non-jab students were treated. We were treated like just really horrible ways, and how we had to fight and persuade administrators to let us to take classes, and it's just heartbreaking. So I woke up to the scam of the prices there, and how like credentialism. I was like, why do I need them to tell me I'm a philosopher or a political scientist? Why was I so addicted to being an honor student and crushing? Like, I was doing well. Like, is there something in my psyche that makes me think like I need that validation? And I realized I have unlimited knowledge in libraries. That's why libraries are really great, because if you don't have money, you still can get knowledge, right? And I love reading so much because I get to put so much knowledge into my mind, and I value being in the classroom. Don't get it twisted. I love being there, but it's the prices, because the price, you're like, I see. You think that you will raise prices, this will exclude riffraff, but you're really not helping students who are smart get in, and you're pushing high interest debt banking on them. And this isn't sustainable for people who also want to have families, and some of these classes, they take a long time and you don't really learn much from them, and you just start dissembling their whole smoke and mirrors, right? And I read every day because I love it. And I remember when I first started my channel, I was like, I'm gonna make my channel just about things I like, stay authentic, I'm gonna do what I want to do on it, have all kinds of topics so I can just show people that you can love learning. And then as time went on, I started doing more and more of that, just sharing my love of knowledge with people, and that keeps me motivated because I have a passion for it. And I have such a passion for it that even when my baby, like, I haven't slept, right, I'd put her on the floor, like, before she learned how to crawl, lay on my back and read, and she sees that, and she's grown up with that, just like my first child did. So it's easier to read around children when they see you read, because then they copy you. They get a baby book, they look at it, they chill, they know how to be quiet during reading, and they may not always do good, but they learn, and it gets easier as you get older, right? So I always made time to read, even when I was sleep deprived as a mom. And alhamdulillah, I sleep a little more now, but I read during when she takes her naps or when she goes jogging with her dad. I could use that time for something else, but I enjoy reading so much that I get a dopamine from reading, and I get excited about what's coming next, what thoughts are going to come in, and this helps to keep me going. This is why I tell women, if you want to be a stay-at-home mom, you need to read, but even if you just want to be a good mom, you need to read. And don't think that just because some people on LinkedIn aren't recognizing you and you're not making a PhD salary at some prestige university, that everything you've learned is nothing. No, we need more smart moms. And reading, if you're a stay-at-home mom, you're a housewife, and a parent, literally makes you stronger. That's why I had always encouraged to read diverse things, because you'll learn from arguing with texts, from poetic books, from scary books, from, like, I was reading a book about dogs. Like, I was like, I want to read something just about dogs. I love animals. I have a lot of animal books. I haven't shared that passion really with the channel, but I do love enjoying learning about animals, and I upload some of my birdwatching videos under Nota Manabalibas playlist. Check it out. But I have a passion for knowledge and for truth and just exercising my brain, because that is what keeps humanity going and keeps people out of trouble. If you just have an idle mind and you're only watching entertainment and you're not really pushing your brain to the highest form, you're not gonna really know yourself and know who you are. People will say, don't read anything un-Islamic and don't read this. And for me, I think to myself, my passion for philosophy is what led me to being open to read Islam in the beginning. That's what's amazing. Is if I would not have read philosophy in the past, I would have been more closed-minded. Because I talked about this with Sabur Ahmad, Jake the Muslim metaphysician, and Yusuf Ponders in the past. Not sure if they kept those episodes up, because I mean, I am pretty much the black sheep of the Muslim online scene. But I did talk to them about that, and I did get some heat from other Muslims for that. But what I mean by studying different topics is that you're going to push your brain and begin to know who you are more. Because if you don't diversify what you read, sometimes you begin to become stale, stagnant, and bored. So there's different energies you get, like from reading books where it's like there's a thrill. Like when I read the book, I'm going to finish it eventually, but I take a pause on it, Khalid bin Ali's military books, The Gallic Wars, The Art of War, Sun Tzu. I read a book on Genghis Khan, right? Just different leaders. Thomas Jefferson. Like, learning knowledge, you start to connect the dots and you begin to see more clearly your life in this realm. And then you connect dots more of truth. And then Islam, when it's presented, you're like, that does make sense. I remember reading hadith about that, or I read the Quran and I think of this. You have a wider range to pull from, and it makes life really exciting. Like, I watch some videos sometimes just about trees, like the birch tree, the oak tree, the ash tree, the willow tree, and the maple tree, and I'm like, this is awesome. And then I'll watch something about horse training. Knowledge in general is just a sweet nectar, okay? And so the peace I get from reading helps me to keep a passion for it, and I try to lead by example. I want to show people you can have diverse interests and you can run with it, and you can love what you do, and you don't necessarily need to go in thousands of dollars of debt in order to feel like you're smart. And you're not going to be smart in every subject, but the humility it takes to crack open a book and hear someone's perspective or learn something you didn't know takes a lot of gut. It's easy to always have a face of, I know this and I know that. When I read these books, I'm showing like, okay, I'm open to hear. Reading makes you open to hear the other side, and it actually strengthens your speech patterns, your patience, your temper, right? You begin to learn like, okay, I'm used to this pattern of rhetoric, so I don't need to get triggered as much. And you grow as a human being, and I feel like it adds weight to your soul. right? And you know how to verbalize your ideas more because you've read content that like adds to your speech syntax, and that makes you more calm. When you read a lot during the day, from politics to food to humor to nature to religion, you feel more weighted down at the end of the day, like you've made some progress. Just because you haven't made progress that's like, I got 1 million views on YouTube, or I just bought 3 buildings. Like, there's different types of success and different types of achievements. And reading, no matter what, you achieve something, because even through fiction, you're going to gain an insight and think about your own self. Because the self-examined life is a good life. And some people don't know the sweetness of faith because they kind of stay in just this gloomy, dry, dusty, mental reality. And it's hard work to dig through your mind and confront yourself and be open for sidebars and hardball questions. And that's why I like testing my mind. I like testing my convictions. And if I have doubts about something, I will go on a journey to find it. If I never get the answer, oh well. But you move on the next day to thinking about something else. And so, through reading, I become more human. I become more myself. I feel more at peace. I feel more happy and calm, more steady. And I have ADD and ADHD, OCD and PTSD. I don't care about those labels, right? I think, honestly, that they just kind of make things up just so that everyone can get on pills. And I don't take any medications for anything. But people will not learn their own brains, and they make excuses not to learn something and do something because they say, I have short attention spans. You can slowly train yourself out of it. I can watch a short clip, but I don't watch people too much like Philip DeFranco who have high jump cuts. People who speed videos up and who have terrible jump cut editing, I keep them away from my brain because it actually dumbs you down and lowers you. If you notice old Western movies, like cowboy movies, John Wayne, you name it, they're slow and they actually hold your attention longer, right? Reading, if you focus your brain and you're consistent with reading, you get better and better. It becomes easier and easier. And even listening to radio, if it doesn't have commercials and you're just listening to someone talk, you get more knowledge from them than somebody who has to do jump cut editing and is insecure about how slow they speak, or they want to be a robot like Ben Shapiro or something like that. You just grow, is my point. Don't make excuses that I have this or I have that. Just do it. There's no magic pill for you. Okay? There is none. Unless you're schizophrenic or something. But reading really helps somebody not be bored when they're in one place. When you're a prisoner, you read, right? It makes you escape the cell you're in and you get entertained in your own brain. People will lay down before bed and all their thoughts come, and now they have insomnia. You read throughout the day, you're going to get your brain moving, going, and all your consciousness is just out, and then you're more exhausted at the end of the night and sleep better. There's a great balance to be had with reading a lot, and I truly enjoy it. I really do. That's why in the past I really couldn't stand some of my trolls and people who would make hit pieces against me, because they'd be like, why do you read? You must be confused. You must doing it for a husband. And it's like, you guys are crazy. Like, you can't. I had people who would attack me when I first had the hackers. They'd be like, stop reading books for money. And I was like, I'm not monetized, but even if I was, why would you tell someone to stop inspiring people to learn? Like, the hate that I get for just discussing topics and willing to hear someone else's side and explore is quite shocking. It's quite shocking. Some of you may be new and you don't know the past history, but I remember how viciously some Muslims attacked me for reading. Called me Pocahontas. They lied about my heritage. They just did terrible, terrible things. They called me like all sorts of strange things. I didn't even know what the words meant. And all because I was just reading. They called me a witch for reading philosophy. They did succeed in hacking me and trying to get me banned and flagging my comment section so YouTube would turn it off. Like, the amount of hatred just for reading books. You're like, why are they so afraid? Like, why are they afraid? What do they fear? It's strange. And so I kept my passion for reading up even while people were trying to destroy me. Why people were making fake videos and editing videos out of context. And it was like, all I'm doing is reading philosophy and theology and cooking videos and doing nature stuff. Like, what's so threatening? And the occasional poetry post or memes and a little bit of politics sprinkled in, because I love political science and I like discussing current and historical affairs. But it was just astounding how some people were very threatened by that, which goes to show how a rap video or a heavy metal rock video will be totally fine. But if you try to inspire people to learn and grow and have important conversations, there will be these hyena masses who will see you as a threat and try to destroy you, because I think it holds up a mirror to their own slothness, their own laziness. They get angry at seeing you pass them. So they want to ankle bite and claw your back, shred it. Like, they just want to destroy. They're envious, spiteful, and hateful, and resentful because they don't use their time well. So they can't understand why you do it, so they have to put all these strange suspicions on. It's really quite odd. They spend their time watching reaction videos, recycling the same podcasts, whereas I lead the way in discovering all the knowledge that is resting on bookshelves. There's so much knowledge out there. It's just mind-blowing. Truly it is. And I get hungry for knowledge. I have books, and sometimes I get sad where I'm like, oh, I can't read as much as I want to. But then I realize if Allah gives me a long life, I'll have plenty of time, and even then there'll be so many books to read that I won't get all the way there. And there's some pretty nasty Muslims who will say everything is a waste of time if you aren't learning about Islam. But these same people depend on doctors, dentists, they watch entertainment, they need to depend on the chef. Like, the art in our culture, the different fields, the different expressions of the human passions, they all relate to one another. We can't all be mechanics. We can't all be plumbers. We can't all be aerospace engineers. We all have our different passions. The artist must eat. The ballerina needs a tailor. The doctor needs someone to run a hotel so that they can have a vacation. Like, we all need each other. Right? So it's strange how just me being a bibliophile hermit and a philosopher pisses so many people off. And it's mostly like Muslims, though, who get the most angry. It's strange. I never had a problem before I became Muslim, but then when I became Muslim, suddenly it was everything you do is a waste of time if you're not reading the Quran and studying Islam. And then when I would read Islam, they would say, who do you think you are? You think you're some sheikh? Women shouldn't even be talking about Islam. You shouldn't even be online. And then you're like, the goalpost is always moving. And no matter what I do, there's always going to be somebody pissed off for some reason, because they're not really doing much in their life. Like, I couldn't imagine myself with all the crime in the world, with all the problems going on, hating on someone reading. And so my passion for reading has kept me going through all of that, through medical stuff, through pregnancy, through sleep deprivation, through hackers, stalkers, slanderers, the fury of the Twitterati TikTok brains coming down. It's a fascinating journey, and yet I'm still here, still doing it. Shadow banned, not really promoted in the algorithm, not too much engagement, but still going. And there will still be people saying, you're a fake Muslim, or you're this, or you're that, or you're an agent, or you're paid by the Jews, or you work for the CIA. Like, you're like, what? All these, you're a witch. Like, what? Like, all these strange stuffs just for sitting and reading. It's like, whenever I talk to non-Muslims or just people in America about it, they'll just be like, what? What do you even do? And then I show them my channel and they're like, really? I'm like, yeah, man. It's strange. But the trolls now are smarter. They operate in group chats and do hive attacks. And they write comments and then they delete their comments. So they try to make you look crazy and stuff like that. And they create sock account and bot stuff, and you're like, it's really sophisticated. The more I've read books privately about cybersecurity, you know, and different stuff about all the fakeness that's out there, you're like, you can't pay attention to that. You just gotta keep going. I used to spend so much time arguing with people, trying to convince them, persuade them, and that took me more time, and then they would just call me crazy and emotional, and you're like, okay, so I'm just gonna spend more time reading instead of defending or explaining. There's really no point to it. And so even through all 4 years of hell with certain people just constantly getting pissed off, I'm still doing it, you know. And that's what I love, is that my passion for it, they can't kill it because it's something I love, right? As long as my eyes work, alhamdulillah, inshallah, I can keep reading. And even then, I would ask my children to read to me, or I would listen to something with audio. And if I became deaf and blind, well, I could try to read Braille. But I would also have a lot of entertainment in my own head because of how much I read. It's like, all you gotta do is close your eyes and I have endless things to think about, right? So, inshallah, hopefully that never happens. But I have a lot to think about. I have a lot to be grateful for. And I become happy with books, and it pisses off so many people. I can't emphasize this enough. If you could go back in time and see how many people would be like, oh, that's a waste of time, waste of time. That's one of the Muslims' favorite thing to tell people, is everything you do is a waste of time. So they takfir you, they call you a Hawarij, and then they tell you what you do is a waste of time, and then they call everything you do haram, and you're like, I'm just gonna keep going. I was warned, you know, about the toxicity of the Muslim community when I first started reading, and at first I didn't really believe it, but then you're like, oh, actually, yeah, I understand. And these were by prominent people who gave me a warning, and I'm very thankful to them that they warned me, you know, because not everyone respects the intellectual mind or sees you as an intellectual, and some people feel good when they have to put you down because you make them feel insecure. Because it turns into personal rather than like the facts. And some people put too high of a standard on you when you're not there. You know? Like, it's fascinating how I'll be trying to lead by example and they'll be like, well, that's not enough, and it's not this, and you don't help nobody. And it's like, how do you know that? You can buy views. You can go to a click farm and give them your info and pay them money, and they can get your views up super high. People can create stock accounts for you. They can, it's all a game. It's all analytic playing games. Fake it till you make it. But if you're shadow banned and you see that you know, you gotta do certain things to get boosted in the algorithm, don't do it. It's gonna be a new CEO that takes over. There'll be better apps in the future that open up, and you know, there'll be authentic, real views. Like, people will compare analytics to, like, before Elon took over Twitter to now, right? And he purged a lot of bots, and people lost thousands of followers, and views went down, you know? There's, like, also on Instagram, there's, like, a system to where you can pay people, and then they just spam comment things. And then your bot, something in your account can reply to each one. And you can get 1,000 comments that literally boost you in the algorithm without having to pay for reach. And so there's all these shenanigans that go on. And I'm free of that need of the analytic games. I'm not going to pay to play. I'm not going to fake it till you make it. Because I do it out of passion, and the world needs authenticity. And even though people used to do DDoS attacks, like constant slander campaigns, insulting DMs, forcing people to boycott me, not have me on, not speak to me, disassociate from me, I still keep going. And so reading is my passion, and that's how you know authenticity, right? So people ask me, how do you keep the passion for reading going? And it's like, it's part of me, it's part of who I am. I've always admired the Dumbledore, Gandalf characters because it's like this archetype for me of sitting around and learning and gaining wisdom so that you can be of utility to others. Some people contend they want the wizard, they want like that Dumbledore figure, but then they disrespect that figure when they're young and then need them when they're older. Like these people, these sheikhs, these scholars, these cardinals, these monks, people who studied for years, they have to fight to reach that level. And there's tons of people trying to tear them down while they grow. I mean, the only way you can truly have success is if you conquer your enemies. And there's tons of... I have more haters than I do admirers, I think. You know? I really do think that. You can tell. But a lot of people, they don't always have to feel like they have to be your cheerleader. But the trolls, they always have to bark. And you're like, ah, interesting. Right? So, I keep my passion up because I love it, and I also thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that I enjoy it. I do, alhamdulillah. My children do as well. It's freeing, and that's what I hope you really take from this channel, that you love to learn to cook, that you love to be outdoors, that you love to have animals around you, that you love to be a mom, that you love to educate your mind. These are things I try to inspire with people, and we'll see how that all plays out on Judgment Day. So think about how you can also have a passion for reading, and it may be slow in the beginning, but build the hobby up, right? Explore, learn, breathe. You can develop a really good habit. And some people are more auditory, so maybe you rather listen to me read than you read it yourself, right? So it's all up to you, but in the end, my point is, just try to learn something new every day. Explore your passions. Take care, fam, and if you'd like to join my blog and support the channel, it's www.subscribestar.com/MilhanArchive. Hope to see you there.